saw this post on Reddit, someone asking, does anyone know how to do something like this with images? They're super obsessed with this motion behavior and want to try something similar for a transition they're making in a sizzle reel. Here's what I came up with. I used those images and just tried to kind of imitate what that looked like and changed up some stuff, just personal preference, I guess. So you kind of have that 3D space, a little parallax. I think some of that effect in the other one was layers crossing through each other and it just wasn't visually appealing. And you can add some more to even what I did here to get some more movement in your effect as well. Just very basic run through of what this is, and then we'll go through and show how I built it and maybe build another one real quick ourselves. Very basic. I've made an overlay. I just used some shape layers here and made these little guides that were on the screen in an example. After the basic scene was built, I decided first thing I wanted to use a null object as my main controller for everything. So that's controlling my 3D rotation and kind of setting up the whole scene of all these images together. First thing I did was I built that, and then I made an image comp. I duplicated a couple times before I actually put it in the real images. And for these, they basically just started out as a shape layer that I put the curved edges on. And I'm using that as a matte layer for each image. And that just gives you the ability to kind of make sure all your images are the same size. You don't have to copy a mask and then try to adjust if the images are different sizes. It's just a real simple way to kind of cut out an image or a video and get it to be in the shape or look that you want. And then it also gives you ability, like in this case, this spiral staircase wasn't centered in the original image. So using a matte layer, I'm able to kind of center it in the center of this composition. Link that image to the null, and I spun the null 180 out. So I started here. And that's when I started to stack these other images, because in this scene, they're not coming forward, they're actually coming backwards out of the original image. Using these pre-comps for the other images too gave me the ability to spin them 180 degrees, because here they're backwards. And that just means when you're working in these comps here, you're not looking at the image in reverse. It's the correct direction. So these comps coming out of the back of the main image are spun 180 degrees, so they're the proper direction when we're looking at the back. Then after they're backwards, all stacked on each other, I started to work on my positioning. We'll just put a keyframe at -180. These images I then just moved out to wherever I felt like in this case. Just throwing this together really quick, starting at a 0 position and then moving outwards in all 3 directions. So you can see here I just have them varying directions coming in the Z position, and then kind of move them along in the X and Y positions as well. If you want to start out making this, we're going to put our black background in there, and then we will grab our overlay and just drop that in. Let's make a new null and make that a 3D layer. I'll just start over with making image 1, and then I had decided just to go by 700 by 1000 just to give it kind of that vertical look and format and enough room. So now that I have that, simplest way to do this, go back up to your shape tool here, get your rounded rectangle tool, double click on it, and it's going to make a shape layer that's equal to the full dimensions of your comp. We're going to come over to our properties panel, or again, you come down into this content and do all this stuff in here as well. But property panel is just very convenient. We're going to turn off our stroke color because we don't want that. We're going to turn on a solid for our fill color. We're going to round the corners. Now, I got some stock images too. Bring in one of those images, and these are nice and big for a free image. If you have layers in here, you'll see these modes, track mats, all of your switches and controls here. Track mat right here. Old way of doing this was selecting your layer to use as a mat, and that's pretty much just saying this layer above it, I want to use that as an inclusion or exclusion zone, so what it will show or what it won't show. So this is the image we just created, and drop that in here. And to start out with, I am going to duplicate that image and just turn that off for now. We're going to make them both 3D, and then we're going to use the pick whip to parent that image to the null. So let's make this -180. Our main image, no animations yet, but it's spun backwards. I did 6 images, so I'm just going to duplicate image 2 5 more times. Click on the image you want to replace in your composition. Click on the image you want up here. Hold Option for Apple. Drag it down and let go of the mouse, and that will replace it. So now we have all of our 6 images in here. Now we're going to animate our position. We make a keyframe for all of them, and then if you hold Shift page down, that's 10 frames. So what I'm doing is 30 frames. Now here, what I did is I make a second set of keyframes, but we kind of want to move these in 3D space. And then what we're going to do is go down again in the timeline, create a new position keyframe, so that kind of gives us them coming out, sitting there, and then go another 30 frames, and then I just like to click on here, copy, V, and paste. So Apple C, Apple V. So now all we have is images coming out and going back. So there we go. Just a kind of basic smooth move out. Tweak that as you see fit. Let's go back to our null layer. And what we're going to do is actually spin this around. I believe that covers the basics of how to build this and what you need to do. That's just how I would tackle this. So I hope that was a good enough response to help you figure out how to do this on your own. All right, good luck.